Once upon a time, in a lively village called Gerenkano, there lived a young man named Bola. Bola was no ordinary boy, he had a gift that no one, not even he, could explain. He was a barber, but there was something very strange about the way he cut hair. Bola had been born into a family of skilled barbers. His grandfather had been the most famous barber in the entire region, and his father was known for giving haircuts so smooth that they shone in the sun. But Bola's story was different. From the moment he picked up his first razor and comb, he showed no signs of his father's talent. In fact, no matter how hard he tried, he could never cut a straight line. The villagers laughed at his attempts, and he was often scolded by his father for being careless. "Bola, how can you be a barber if you can't even cut a boy's hair without making him look like a plucked chicken?" his father would say. Bola didn't know what to do. He tried every day, but his hands refused to cooperate. It wasn't that he was lazy, no, Bola was a hardworking young man. But whenever he picked up his scissors while awake, the result was always a disaster. Haircuts came out uneven, crooked, and embarrassing. One day, something very strange happened. Bola had been working in his father's shop all day, sweeping floors and running errands. He was exhausted. As soon as he sat down in a chair, he fell into a deep sleep. But what happened next shocked everyone. A customer, unaware that Bola was sleeping, sat in his chair and asked for a simple trim. His father was busy attending to another customer, and no one stopped the man. Then, something unbelievable happened. Bola's hands, as if controlled by a spirit, picked up the scissors and started snipping away. His eyes remained shut, his breathing slow and steady, yet his hands moved with the skill of a master barber. The villagers gasped as they watched Bola move. His fingers twirled the scissors with ease, his razor glided smoothly across the man's scalp, and in just a few minutes, he was done. When the man stood up and looked at himself in the mirror, he couldn't believe his eyes. "By the gods! This is the best haircut I have ever had," the man exclaimed. The entire shop was in shock. Bola, still snoring, had just given the perfect haircut. His father, who had seen everything, didn't know what to say. He shook Bola awake. "Bola, what just happened?" his father demanded. Bola rubbed his eyes, confused. "What happened?" he asked, looking around. "You just gave the best haircut in this village," a woman in the shop shouted. Bola's father pointed to the man's head. "Did you do this?" Bola looked at the man's neatly trimmed hair and shook his head. "No, Baba, I didn't cut his hair. I was sleeping." The room fell silent. That was the moment the village realized the truth. Bola could only cut hair when he was asleep. Word spread like wildfire. By the next day, the entire village had gathered in the shop, eager to see the strange barber at work. Bola, embarrassed by all the attention, tried to prove them wrong. He picked up his scissors and attempted to cut a little boy's hair while awake. But, as expected, the result was terrible. The lines were jagged, and one side was much shorter than the other. The boy's mother screamed in horror. But when Bola dozed off in exhaustion, the magic happened again. His hands moved like a trained artist, shaping, trimming, and styling the boy's hair with perfect precision. The boy looked like a prince when he stepped out of the chair. "This is a miracle," the villagers cried. From that day, the shop became the busiest place in Gerenkano. People traveled from other villages just to see the barber who cut hair in his sleep. Men, women, and children lined up to have their hair styled by Bola, but only if he was asleep. His father was both proud and confused. "Bola, my son, this is both a gift and a mystery," he said one evening. "You are a barber unlike any other, but how can we make this work?" And so, Bola's father came up with an idea. Every morning, he would make Bola work hard in the shop, sweeping floors, polishing mirrors, and arranging tools, until he was too tired to stay awake. Once Bola fell asleep, the real work would begin. Customers would take turns sitting in his chair while his hands, like magic, gave them the best haircuts they had ever seen. The villagers were amazed, but some people were suspicious. Was Bola possessed? Was he under a spell? Some believed he was using charms, while others thought his ancestors had blessed him with a gift. But no matter the rumors, one thing was clear: Bola was now the most famous barber in the land. However, not everyone was happy about Bola's newfound fame. In the village lived another barber named Dunlody, an old man who had been cutting hair for over 30 years. Before Bola's strange talent was discovered, Dunlody had been the best barber in Garinkano. But now, everyone wanted Bola's haircuts, and Dunlody's shop was empty. "This boy is ruining my business," Dunlody grumbled. "How can a sleeping barber be better than me? I have spent years perfecting my craft." Jealousy burned in Dunlody's heart. He was determined to prove that Bola was nothing but a fraud. And so, he began plotting a way to expose Bola in front of the entire village. Meanwhile, Bola was happy. For the first time in his life, he felt useful. The same hands that had once been clumsy were now praised by everyone. He no longer felt ashamed. But deep down, he wondered, why could he only cut hair when he was asleep? Was there something more to his gift? And what would happen if someone tried to wake him up mid-sleep? Little did he know, he was about to find out, the people of Zunguru had never been more proud. They had a secret, a golden treasure hidden in their midst. Bola, the sleepy barber, was their own legend. The town elders, the market women, and even the children swore to keep his gift a secret. But secrets, no matter how tightly guarded, have a way of slipping through cracks. At first, only those in the village visited Bola's shop. Customers came at night, sitting in hushed excitement as they watched him snore and snip, his hands moving like magic. No two haircuts were ever the same, yet each one was flawless. Bola never missed a line, never left an uneven fade, and never needed a second attempt. However, trouble began the day a visitor from another town stumbled upon the mystery. One evening, a merchant from the neighboring village of Kochia came to Zunguru to sell spices. As he walked past Bola's shop, he saw a long line of men waiting outside. Curious, he decided to wait and see what the fuss was about. When his turn finally came, he sat in Bola's chair. As Bola slept and worked his magic, the merchant watched in disbelief. He had seen great barbers in the city, but none like this. When he left the shop, he couldn't keep the secret to himself. By the time he reached Kochia, he had told everyone about the barber who cut hair in his sleep. The next night, strangers from Kochia appeared in Zunguru. They pretended to be travelers passing through, but their real goal was to witness the sleepy barber for themselves. When Bola began his work, they gasped. Some clapped their hands over their mouths in shock, others whispered prayers, unsure whether he was blessed or cursed. The following week, more people arrived, and the week after that, even more. Soon, Bola's small barber shop was filled with strangers, eager to see the miracle worker in action. The secret was out, and Zunguru could no longer hide their sleepy barber. Rumors began to spread beyond their borders. Some said Bola was a spirit in human form. Others claimed he had been blessed by the gods. A few whispered that he was possessed. And in the faraway city, where men of power ruled, powerful ears had begun to listen. One evening, as Bola drifted into sleep, ready to cut another head of hair, a shadow lurked outside his shop. A man in fine robes watched from the darkness, his eyes filled with curiosity and greed. When the story of Bola reached the ears of King Ademu, the ruler of the land, he was intrigued. The king, known for his love of style, had never been satisfied with any barber's work. He summoned his royal guards and commanded them to bring Bola to the palace immediately. The entire village panicked. What if Bola woke up in the middle of cutting the king's hair? What if he ruined the royal hairstyle and angered the king? But they had no choice. Bola was escorted to the grand palace, where he was laid on a golden barber's chair. As he drifted into sleep, his hands began their magical work, shaping the king's hair into a masterpiece. But just as he was about to finish, something unexpected happened. Unbeknownst to Bola, a jealous rival named Damu had been watching him closely. Damu had been the most respected barber in the land before Bola's legend overshadowed him. Consumed by envy, he plotted to humiliate Bola in front of the king. As Bola's hands worked their magic, Damu snuck into the palace and, with a sudden bang, startled Bola awake. The moment Bola's eyes opened, his steady hands faltered, and with one misstep, he shaved a jagged line across the king's perfect hair. Gasps filled the palace. The king, once relaxed, touched his head and roared in outrage. The queen, the palace guards, and the nobles all stared in shock. Bola, confused and half awake, realized the disaster he had created. Damu smirked, believing his plan had succeeded. But the king's reaction was far from what anyone expected. The entire town of Kudu stood still after the great mishap. Bola, the barber who could only cut hair in his sleep, had now become the center of a tale so unbelievable that people from neighboring villages traveled just to hear it. But what would become of him now? The jealous rival, Ledo, had tampered with Bola's chair, causing him to jolt awake mid-haircut while trimming the king's hair. Gasps filled the palace as the king sat frozen, his royal barber's robe slipping from his shoulders. Half of his head was shaved clean, while the other half had been left untouched. A sight so strange, so comical, that even the most serious men in the palace struggled to keep their faces straight. Ledo had planned to embarrass Bola, but he had not considered the king's reaction. The entire courtroom braced for rage, for punishment, for a thunderous command that could send Bola into exile, or worse. But what happened next shocked everyone. Instead of fury, the king threw his head back and laughed, a deep, booming laugh that echoed through the palace walls. "Bola, you truly are one of a kind," he exclaimed, examining his reflection in a polished bronze mirror. "Who else could give me a style so daring?" The palace attendants hesitated before joining in the laughter, and soon, the entire room erupted with mirth. What Ledo had intended as a disaster had become the latest fashion craze. The king declared that he would keep his unusual haircut as a mark of his encounter with the legendary Sleepy Barber. But despite the laughter, Bola remained uneasy. "My king," he said humbly, bowing low. "I have never cut hair while awake. It is a mystery to me as much as it is to you. I did not mean to dishonor you." The king stroked his chin. "That is precisely why your gift must be protected. From now on, you shall be my personal barber." He clapped his hands, and his guard stepped forward. And as for Ledo, Ledo trembled, knowing he had been caught. He dropped to his knees, pleading for mercy. "You will walk in the palace gardens until you learn that jealousy only ruins a man," the king decreed. "Let Bola's success be your lesson." With that, Bola's reputation soared. Word of the Sleepy Barber spread beyond Kudu, beyond the neighboring villages, reaching as far as the grand city of Kano. Nobles, traders, and travelers all sought out Bola, each willing to pay handsomely for a haircut from the barber who walked only in his dreams. But the greatest honor came when the king issued a proclamation. Every year, there would be a festival celebrating the legend of Bola, where barbers from all around would compete to recreate the famous half-shaved, half-unshaved royal haircut. One day, years later, an old woman visited Bola's shop. She carried a bundle wrapped in cloth. "I knew your father," she said, her voice gentle. "He had the same gift. But he never embraced it the way you did. He feared it. Bola's hands trembled as he unwrapped the cloth. Inside lay an old razor, one that looked strikingly similar to the one he used. The woman smiled. It runs in your blood. You were born for this. From that day forward, Bola no longer questioned his talent. He embraced his fate, knowing that his name would never be forgotten. And so, the sleepy Baba of Kudu became more than just a man, he became a legend, forever remembered in the songs and stories of his people. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more stories like this.